was gone. And in fact, the weird thing that he felt was that not only was it gone, but it appeared that all the plants and things that he had cleared out to get good pictures of the obelisk seemed to be back where they were before. They seemed to be, you know, he had pulled some plants out to get clearer pictures of the obelisk, and nothing appeared to be disturbed. It appeared to be the way it was before he did anything, which, you know, he thought was really weird. And the other thing that he thought was weird when this all happened was that he had torn his shirt, and when he fell against the obelisk, something happened very strange, and he felt like he actually was absorbed just for a second into the obelisk. And then when he came back to his senses, you know, he felt a little dizzy, and he noticed that his shirt was no longer torn. And he just, you know, these are just weird occurrences that I can't really explain. I'm just trying to tell you what he told me. I think at this point I want to go ahead and turn this over to Dan McAvoy because we're running low on time, and I want to make sure that Jonathan gets this new audio in because it's really, really interesting. Dan, you want to come up here? Thank you. Let me introduce Dan real quickly, and then I'll let him tell you a little bit about himself. Dan is a retired military man. He's belonged to he's been an 18-year veteran of this field. He's been an active member in CUFOS, MUFON, many other UFO-related organizations. He's well respected by John Timmerman, Bud Hopkins, a whole bunch of people. Well, Dan took it upon himself to conduct an interview independently of all those organizations. He didn't want to be influenced by them, by asking for money or anything like that, and you know, he really wanted to remove himself from agendas. And so he did this on his own, and I'm going to let him tell you what he found out.
Hi. I wanted to reiterate what Dan said about Bob and Terry Brown and the UFO Congress having the courage to allow us to come back and at least present this information to you so you can decide for yourselves what you think happened. I also want to thank you all for coming out here and taking the time to listen. It seems we've come full circle in that I was here 2 years ago in March and met Dr. Reed and Robert and heard their original presentation. I had followed the case on the Art Bell show, but I wanted to see for myself what he had. As someone who has spent a lot of years in looking at this phenomenon and really being a lifelong pursuit, I'm most interested in contact cases, contact experiences. And this is one of the few cases where a contactee actually came back from the incident with a body of evidence. No pun intended, but a body of evidence. There was photographs, there were videos, there are pictures, there are audio tapes. So I felt like I had to get in, and Dan and I took it upon ourselves to make this an investigation, some of which we did jointly, some of which we did together. So, thank you. Thank you. I came to Dr. Reed and I said, look, I'm willing to do a fair-minded, open investigation of your case. You've got to be fair with me. Give me your witnesses, complete access to your witnesses, access to your evidence, your videotapes, your audio tapes, whatever he had, but most importantly, to my access to himself. So I've spent the last 2 years observing Dr. Reed in many different settings and situations. This is a circumstantial case where a lot of, if you look at certain single pieces, they seem fine, but then you put it all together and you've got a great mosaic of a contact experience. There was also an extraterrestrial artifact that was brought back out from this encounter that Dan had shown the pictures of, the link bracelet. It's a silver bracelet. It's about this wide, wrapped sort of around your wrist. And this device has the ability to teleport an individual, perhaps to another dimension, another place. Something that was manufactured somewhere, but not here on this planet. The device also allows for contact with extraterrestrial biological entities, described best as beings of light. I had the personal experience of witnessing this event. We have also had this artifact examined by reputable scientists, to include a member of the Ames Institute of NASA. This case presents us with a Herculean challenge. If we accept the reality of the encounter, then we have to examine our current paradigms and realize that these might be inadequate. We can also study the case for its importance to contact and realize as well that this case has been a lightning rod for reports by other contactees. Just in the past 2 years, I've gotten many, many reports, fresh reports of sightings and contact experiences. And a fair number also report seeing a similar creature or a similar structured craft as to what he saw in the woods. In fact, just as an example, I had a gentleman who lives in Maryland. He's in his late 60s now. He related a story to me when he was a child, that he saw the exact same creature on his father's farm, and it stayed with him for 50 years. So I think that there's two things that are important. One is that we provide an open and hospitable atmosphere for those who've had experiences to come forward and tell them. Because the downside of that is, as they have tried to do with Jonathan in this case, is to try and keep you inside, and you don't want to come forward and tell what happened to you. Because look what happened to him. His life went to hell. So, you know, I think that's what's important. I hope that, if nothing else, you all come away with an open mind. I hope you come away with more sympathetic, but not in that term, more sympathetic towards contactees and their experiences. Because I think we've gone through the phase of sightings, and in the 50s and 60s, 70s, 80s, but now I believe we're in an area of contact. Not necessarily abduction research, because Dr. John Mack, Bud Hopkins, David Jacobs, they're doing yeoman's work there. Really, they have no equal. But I'm interested in the other cases of contact where an abduction doesn't occur. I've studied a database over 100,000 cases covering the time period from 1831 to the present. Of those, there are 2,300 that came strictly from the state of Washington. And I want to try and set a context, a frame of reference here, that this occurrence didn't just happen way out of the blue, but that it is just part of an ongoing thing that's happening up there in the Pacific Northwest. A full 25 to 30% of these cases are in close proximity to the encounter site, as Dr. Reed that he had the encounter at. Also remember that this area is home to Yakima Island, Maury Island. It's the home of the 1947 sightings by Kenneth Arnold, which he coined the term flying saucers. This geographic region has a rich cryptozoological history as well. And we're certainly receiving reports from those areas almost on a daily, if not weekly basis. I try to take a review of the literature and see what else was out there in terms of contact. Because people have questioned me about, well, if I was Dr. Reed, I wouldn't have done this, or I would have done this, or I would have done it a different way. And I don't think anybody realizes how they're going to act until they're presented with the situation. But I did review some literature. And J.U. Perrin, P-R-E-I-R-A-I-N, in Phenomena Spatiu, did a review of 198 cases of EBE human contact. This research revealed that there were 27 cases of hostile contact. 44% of these involved alien aggression. 30% involved human aggression. 11% an actual fight. 15% accidental violence, all of which occurred here. In 1980, M. Moravec studied the physiological reactions to close encounter events from Australia. The results were as followed, all again which reported by Dr. Reed in his encounter. 70% reported fear, 15% curiosity, 9% amnesia, and 7% anger. There are hundreds of documented instances of UFOs that do something that provokes aggressive behavior. In his book CE5, Richard Haynes reports on 59 cases of overtly hostile human behavior. Amy Michelle said in 1958 that the visitors never display fear under any circumstances. And George Fawcett wrote in Clear Intent, when confronting UFO occupants,